Alright, now we're going to multiply negative I, and we get a positive 4I and a positive 6I squared. That becomes a negative 1, so we get negative 32 minus 48I plus 4I minus 6. Negative 38 minus 44I. 3 distributes in. 3I distributes in. I squared becomes a negative 1, which changes the sign to a negative 15. Positive 18I. Negative 1 times negative 4 is a positive 4. Negative 2 with 1I. 8 times 4 is negative 32I. 8 times 2 is positive 16I squared, negative 1. 4 minus 2I minus 32I minus, changes signs to negative 16. 4 minus 16 is negative 12. Negative 2 and negative 32 make negative 34I. When it says it's squared, that means we write it twice. So 4 minus 4I, 4 minus 4I, multiply it in, 16 plus, oops, that's going to be a negative 16I, negative 16I, positive 16I squared. That becomes a negative 1, which changes it to a negative 16. 16 minus 16 cancels out and is 0, minus 32I. Or you can just write negative 32I. 14, it's squared, so we write it twice. Distribute, negative times negative is positive. Negative 16I, negative 16I, positive 16I squared. This becomes a negative 1. Sixteen and 16 cancel out, negative 32I. So you could write it this way, or 0 minus 32I. Now we will solve each equation by taking the square root. So we add 5 to both sides. 9x squared equals, cancels out, 441. Let's see. That'd be 4. 30. Square root 49 and x equals plus or minus 7. Add 5. 4x squared equals 64. Divide by 4. squared is equal to 16 square root x equals plus or minus 4. We're going to subtract 6. 5b squared equals negative 45 divided by 5. B squared equals negative 9 square root. Square root of 9 is a positive plus or minus 3, and because it was negative, we add the I. Add 1. 6x squared equals negative 48 divided by 6. X squared equals times 8 square root. Square root of 8 we have to simplify. Negative 8, sorry. Negative 1, 4 times 2. The 4 can break down to 2 times 2. Those can leave, the 1 can leave, and the 2 is left inside. So plus or minus 2i root 2 is our solution for number 18. 19, we have the square root of 36. 6 times 6, so it's plus or minus 6 is our solution. 80, 8 times 10, 4 times 2, 5 times 2, 2 times 2, 5 can't break down. Those can leave, and these can leave, so I have 2 times 2 is 4, and the 5 is left inside. 4 root 5. Negative 128. I can break it down by, let's see, 4 will go into it, 32 times negative 1 times 4 times 2 times 16. 16 breaks down to 4 times 4, so those are paired. 4 can break down to 2 times 2. Those can pair. 2 times 4 is 8. Take out a negative makes an I, and left inside is one of the 2's all by itself. 8i root 2. Negative 75 we can break down to negative 1 times 3 times 25. 25 is a special square, 5 times 5. I, 3 is left inside. 5i root 3. On 23 through 26, we're using the quadratic formula. So we're going to have x equals negative b plus or minus the square root. B squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Plug in a, oh, there's no b, c. So 0, 0, a is 12, c is 12. So we get 0 plus or minus the square root over 24. We get 0 squared minus 4 times 12 times 12 is negative 576. The square root of 576 is 24, so that's going to be equal to 0 plus or minus 24. Because it was negative, I need an I on there over 24. 0 I don't need. 24 divided by 24 is 1, and then I keep the I attached. Okay, same thing. x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. B is missing c. 0, 0, a, c. 0 plus or minus the square root over 2 times 2 is 4. 0 squared minus 4 times 2 times 6 is negative 48. 48, if you want to check if it's a square root, you get a decimal, which means you need to break it down and simplify. So square root of negative 48 would be 4 times 1, 2, 4 times 12. 4 times 12 breaks down to 4 times 3. I can take out the 4. I can take out the negative. So I'm going to replace it up here. 0 plus or minus 4i root 3 over 4. 0 goes away. 4 over 4 becomes a 1. So we get plus or minus 1i root 3. Or plus or minus I root 3. You could choose either solution. Problem 25. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Plug in a, b, c. A, c. So we get 2 negatives make a positive. Negative 2 squared minus 4 times 3 times 11 equals negative 128. All over 2 times 3 is 6. If I check to see, the square root of 128 is a decimal, which means I need to reduce it. And let's do 4 times 32. Those compare together. 8 breaks down to 4 times 2. 4 breaks down to 2 times 2. There's a pair. There's a pair. 4 times 2 is 8. I root 2. So this is going to be replaced with 8I root 2 over 6. 2, 8, and 6 are divisible by 2, so I'm going to reduce it. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and I attach on I root 2 to my solution. Running out of room. Alright, our last one. We have x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. A, B, C, A, C. 2 negatives make a positive 9 plus or minus the square root of negative 9 squared minus 4 times 6 is negative 15 over 8. 15, when I break it down, it breaks down to negative 1, 3 times 5. Nothing can leave except for that negative 1. So I'm going to replace that on here. So I'd have 9 plus or minus I root 15 over 8. That's your solution.